The Pittsburgh Penguins have a golden opportunity as they've been linked to one of the best prospects in the NCAA, and not just the NCAA, but one of the best prospects in the entire National Hockey League. And we're going to break down what this means for the team moving forward and how they're going to look to acquire this player. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Penguins Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your Pittsburgh Penguins as we head towards a very busy offseason, the Penguins still need to find a coach, and obviously they could be making some very exciting moves like the one we're going to talk about today. So make sure to go down below, hit that subscribe button. It is free at the end of the day, and you get to stay up to date with everything going on with this team. But Mark, we have a very interesting prospect to talk about today, and they could look to acquire him, and it's going to take a little bit of, getting creative to acquire him. But one of the best prospects in the game, and get to learn his name, it's Isaac Howard. And could he be the new Rutger McGroarty? And what they mean by that is not, in terms of play style necessarily, but could he come to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the same type of fashion, a similar fashion? And there was a lot going on with the Tampa Bay Lightning. He is a prospect of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and there was a lot going on over the last couple of days with their exit interviews. And their GM came out and said that it is unlikely that Isaac Howard will sign with the Bolts. And he was asked if it was a bit of a surprise because he seemed optimistic in the middle of the season that he was going to sign. And he basically said that they couldn't come to an agreement, and it sounds like he will be moving on from the Bolts organization. Now, the interesting thing here, before I throw it over to you, Mark, is he is, with the organization. They're going to have to probably trade him or, wait till, August 15th, and then he can kind of go wherever he wants. But it looks like it's going to be a trade because no team wants to lose nobody for no assets. So it could turn into very similar to the Rutger McGroarty situation. So how do you feel about this player? We'll get into a deep dive on the player himself and kind of what this means for the Penguins and why the Penguins should acquire him. But I think this is a very interesting opportunity that the Penguins should, again, take advantage of.
I mean, looking at what Dubas wants to do, a rebuild / retool, this makes total sense. The Penguins have a bunch of older players on their roster. Tampa's still looking to compete, so it's the perfect situation to dump out an older guy to the Tampa Bay Lightning, bring in a young first round pick, into the organization. And I think the value is going to be a lot lower. Tampa knows that they're either going to lose this guy for nothing or have to trade him for near to nothing as well, because you're stuck in the stalemate of a player not wanting to come. Looking at his stats from Michigan, he was outstanding, 51 points. This was 20 more points than anyone else on the roster as well. He's been dominant in the NCAA. Like I said, a first round pick. This is the perfect opportunity for Dubas to do exactly what he wants to do: get younger, get faster, and bring in more first round talent and move on from a couple older guys that maybe they don't look at as a future piece for this team.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to give Tampa exactly what they want, because obviously we know now that John Cooper is staying there and they're going to want to compete still, and gives the Pittsburgh Penguins exactly what they want, which is a young, very skilled forward, right? So I think that it could make a lot of sense. Now, there is something to be said about a 21-year-old who's still, playing in the NCAA and was a first-round pick. You would like to see them probably turn pro by now, so maybe there is something there, and maybe he just doesn't want to join the Tampa Bay Lightning organization. But, he came in and had a very interesting quote, and we'll get to that now. And he said, "I just feel like with me and Tampa, we didn't see eye to eye the same way I thought we would. It wasn't a situation where I was demanding to step right into the NHL. It wasn't anything like that. It just didn't necessarily work." So now, you can read between the lines whatever you want, but the quote itself is not really telling, right? Obviously, it doesn't seem like he was trying to barge his way into the NHL or anything like that, but he's still not in the NHL. He's also still not in the AHL, and he definitely can be at this point in time. And it sounds like, by all accounts, the plan for him is to go back to college still next year and then make the jump to the NHL. So I think this is actually a good idea for the Penguins to kind of get this guy, and then he can come in the year after, join the team, because I think he's going to be NHL ready probably by that point anyway, and he'll be, mature as well. Like, he'll be 22 already. He won't be like an 18-year-old coming to the league right away. But I think that this is essentially, right, and as you can see from this article too, a Rutger McGroarty situation, the same thing, right? It's the exact same thing where they can take advantage of another team, the player not wanting to sign there, Cutter Gauthier to name a few, Adam Fox, Brock Faber, there's a bunch of them, the list goes on and on and on. So I think it's a very interesting opportunity. So it's going to get very crazy this offseason, I think, for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have opportunities like this. They have a ton of cap space, which we can get to as well. And Again, another quote from Isaac Howard that he had regular communication with him and his agent throughout the years, our development staff, and this is from obviously the Tampa Bay Lightning side of things. So, they were in constant communication. So there's a lot out there in terms of fan reaction like this. Maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins shouldn't go after a player like this because, maybe there is something behind the scenes that they don't know about. Do you think that there's anything to that the Penguins should maybe steer clear of? Or is it the type of thing where it's like, you're not going to give up that many assets for him because obviously, it might be a low-risk trade is what I'm trying to say. Do you think there's anything to that where maybe they should be cautiously optimistic?
I mean, if you can get him for cheap enough, I think you take the risk on this. This is a first-round pick that dominated in the NCAA. The big thing with Tampa as well, I know he says he doesn't care about playing time, but a lot of these guys are looking at NCAA guys. Ryan Leonard jumped straight into the lineup for the Washington Capitals, currently going into the second round. So a lot of these guys want to get in, compete, and play in the NHL immediately. If the Penguins are making a push for the playoffs next year, which might be pushing it at this point, let's be honest, we could see them come in after a season, the NCAA sign, make a push in the playoffs. If not, you can get them for a couple of games in the NHL, let them go back down to the AHL for a playoff push as well. There's a lot of options to work with, and I think this works perfectly for both sides where he can get into the lineup. We know Tampa's a deep team. They have a lot of veterans on the lineup. They want to win a Stanley Cup next season, but Pittsburgh has the playing time to get him immediately into this lineup if he wants to sign right now, if he wants to sign at the end of the year or in the next year. They can get him immediately in this lineup to make an impact and get him experience in the NHL level.
And I think that's the biggest thing for this team is to kind of get guys into, like we saw at the end of this season, right? Calling up a bunch of players from Wilkes-Barre Scranton and getting them into the lineup to get that NHL experience. So it's gonna be interesting for sure. And Brisebois also came out and said that it's either gonna be a trade, but I think a lot of teams have to be active. Like the Penguins have to show interest. This player's not gonna fall into your lap, right? They're not. I don't know if they're gonna be. I'm sure they're gonna try and shop him, but I don't know if they're gonna be actively trying to shop him. I'm sure they'll just take the comp pick that's given to them if he ends up going to free agency anyway. So I think they'd be somewhat happy with that. So this is from Matt as well. On the other side of things, I am he's going to put out a mixtape of Isaac Howard for the 2024-25 season, and he's going to post that on X. And of course, I wanted everyone to get some eyes on this dude and see why I think Dubas needs to be all over acquiring him. So there's both sides of this. People are like, there might be something here behind the scenes, and then people are saying, you know what? High skill, high ceiling, go after him, see what happens, and it's kind of a low risk move. Tampa's not going to ask for a first round pick for this player at this point because he's just going to walk to free agency anyway. So it's going to be interesting. There are some comparables to a guy like Braden Point, which is pretty, great company, right? Braden Point, multi-time Stanley Cup champion, of course. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Penguins do because we can get into this now just to close out. They have a ton of cap space next season. I mean, $23 million right now in 2025-2026. Do you think that they can also weaponize this cap space, getting away from Isaac Howard a little bit because obviously he's not going to count that much towards the cap, but do you think they can weaponize this cap space heading into next season as well? And I mean, they have a lot of roster spots up for grabs next year heading into the regular season.
On a older player to get with it in this lineup, get someone in their mid-20s, early 20s, whatever it is. I think they need to be active enough, bringing in guys that could be low risk, high reward to help. I mean, if you get a guy that comes in and has a career high of 10 goals, you get him for cheap for 2 years, he scores 30, obviously helps any team, but I think it really accelerates the Penguins retool, rebuild, whatever they're trying at this moment.
Yeah, I think that is the way that they got to go, and we'll see what they end up doing. But I think that this is a good risk, if you want to even call it a risk, for the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is something that they should actually probably be the number one team going after Isaac Howard at this point. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they end up doing. But that'll do it for this episode of Penguins Digest. Let us know in the comments what you think about Isaac Howard potentially coming over to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think that it's, again, a low risk move for the Penguins at this point. Sign him, see what or trade for him, trade for his rights, and see what you can kind of get out of him. And obviously he's made a great impact at the NCAA level. And let us know about the salary cap as well. Would you try to weaponize it? What would you do with the salary cap? And I think that Tampa, again, they're trying to compete, so you might have some pieces that they might be interested in, and maybe you can get something really good back for that, as well as Isaac Howard as well. But let us know in the comments what you think, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Pittsburgh Penguins.